integrating AI into HVAC and HVAC units. The reason being that why are we doing all these things? We are doing all these things to bring the overall energy that we spend in HVAC units on HVAC units down. And if we look at the total spend, a big part of it is basically the smaller units that we are doing. That is the room ACs, the split ACs, the multi-splits, the VRFs, the rooftop packages, etc., which get missed out in most of our discussions, similar discussions, I would say. You know, it's all right. We are going ahead with BMSs on the big buildings where they work and trying to reduce energy. The embedded energy is coming down in the manufacturing process, but what needs to be done with the smaller units is equally important. The traditional way of doing things was servicing the unit once a year or commissioning the unit and preparing a checklist and ticking it off. And we never kept track of what is happening continuously because ways and means were really not available. We were not connected to these particular machines. So very well said that the COP or EER of the machine when we installed was 3.8 and 4.5, but that's just when it was installed. It loses a little bit of refrigerant. It even has a dirty filter or dirty condenser coil, and there it all goes. You come down to a smaller number, and there are millions of units out in the market, and we know the story how these units look after a couple of years of installation. And therefore, the amount of energy consumption in these particular things. If energy and sustainability are the real topics that we want to talk to, then we cannot ignore this particular area. So what needs to be done in these particular units is what I'm going to talk about with the time given graciously by Mr. Gopal Anand and Snehal for thermal control. I'm really obliged to them for giving this time and getting the audience to know where HVAC units are moving somewhat and where HVAC units can move with integration of IoT and AI and what have you. Let us understand that creating a hype of big AI can only result in, at the end of the day, getting disillusioned by it. And instead of creating a hype, what we should do, what we should talk about is actually what is achievable and what we are actually doing. So more and more equipment today is getting connected with the net, and that's the difference between internet and Internet of Things. And all of us know that a lot of air conditioning systems, especially the large chillers, the VAVs, and what have you, have already started getting connected onto the net, and not necessarily just to the BMS, but even remote monitoring through apps on phones is possible on many a system. So what are we doing with the things connected to the net? We are jumping the curve to the next level of being able to analyze, to be able to control, to be able to take proper action in order to bring the overall energy consumption down. Let me start with the simplest of things, which is the room air conditioner. We sell thousands. We used to sell thousands. Now it's gone into millions. And what is the difference that AI and IoT is bringing to it and can bring to it? Over years, we have been talking that these air conditioners should sit on a network and the power company should be able to switch them off on demand. You can have a unit which is of level 1 to 6, which gets set up when you buy the unit, and everything apart from level 1 and 2, which goes into hospitals or into very critical areas, can take a switch off for half an hour without creating a mayhem. This is already done in other parts of the world. This was discussed in one of the great meetings over here in probably 3 years back, when everyone nodded their heads and said, yeah, yeah, and probably nothing got done after that. So the idea is remote group switch off, unload over network. This will be a much better feature than basically going and creating load shedding again, when millions more air conditioners get added to the networks and overload them. And I think a lot of you who are into IoT have noticed now that power monitoring has become very, very simple. A module looks like a miniature circuit breaker, which sits next to your circuit breakers, has a CT. You clamp the CT onto whichever equipment you want, go onto your phones, download an app, and there you are. You can monitor the equipment load instantaneously, and you can monitor the consumption over today, last week, 15 days, 1 month, 1 year, month by month. You know, these are the things which are possible and are happening. It's only that the HVAC industry, especially the smaller part of it, either stays blind to it, or they are wanting other countries in the world to develop it first, and then we will do it over here as a me too. I think that time has gone. A lot of the companies are establishing their R&D and future centers over here, and they need to look at it objectively and do it. And believe me, it's going to make a lot of difference. Now let's get to the split units. What is additionally required in split units? Going around, you will see in cafes and in restaurants and in bars today, indoor air quality people talk about, but you take an indoor air quality sensor over there, a CO2 sensor, and you'll see levels above 4,000. You know, if you had the instrument and walked in, you would directly walk out of that particular place. I think more than 0.05% of split unit places do not have fresh air into it. And we have had, I think, 200 seminars, webinars, and cocktails over indoor air quality in the last year. But when you look at the action being actually taken to introduce fresh air into places where, the IAQ or the CO2 goes up and an exhaust fan starts or a fresh air fan starts, is something which is really not taking off and is the need of the hour and the day if we talk about IoT and AI and all the future things. Power analysis and remote diagnostics. Yes, you see a particular code on your split ACs sometimes, and a poor customer knows nothing how to do it, what to do next. I'm to say, in the world of AI, you find major players who don't even put their 1-800 number on the units that a customer can ring up and lodge his complaint. And in the world of AI, if you see the reality of the systems where instead of a human being now, a bot is talking to you, at least the companies should monitor that what percentage of people got frustrated at the end of the day and dropped the call midday. It's not the question of how many calls went through, but how many were asked questions that they had no answers to or were totally irrelevant and the call got dropped. That is what needs to get monitored if we are to survive in this AI world. Let's go ahead to package units. Package units should start incorporating economizers in this AI world. There is a whole lot of time when outside air is better than inside air. And parts of the United States, it's mandatory to run economizers first. And if you can't satisfy the inside condition with economizers, then you go into cooling control. So economizers, evaporative cooling, these things can be very nicely incorporated along with these rooftop unit jobs. The problem is that it's a happy-go-lucky situation. I'm to say people who are designing jobs are really not bothered about adding anything or changing from what they are doing. They are basically just continuing to do what was being done for the last 20 years. And although the market has been crying for economizers, none of these people have basically taken any care to add economizers onto their new jobs. And I think by virtue of this particular forum, the message should reach them that things have to change. I'm to say, what are we here for with all these forums? We are not here to just set hypes and praise people and put garlands and have a cocktail drink. We are over here to bring out the real issues into the market, which need to be taken cognizance of. Similarly, on multi-splits, the network compatibility and power analysis, etc., are cardinal today. VRF is one of our biggest market segments and even growing bigger by the day. And it is pathetic to see the way it is controlled and it is commissioned. Tools are available today where on a VRF, you can connect a particular device, you can connect it to the board and do the complete commissioning on a laptop. Instead of that, 95% of the people that we have had over various calls for awards, etc., say, yes, sir, we have it. But less than 1% of the people show up at site actually when commissioning is to be done. I think all the major players of VRFs should take this into account. This is an actual picture of something which one of the companies, after insisting 20 times, brought to the site and actually used it for commissioning their system. And believe me, you find many nice things that it is still short of gas. It is taking more amps than what it should have at that point of time. There are several other factors that needed adjustment after looking through these particular windows. It's just like you roll your BMW or your Mercedes or your high-end car into a car garage, and that guy goes and plugs it into a computer and sees how your various things are behaving. And here we are as one of the biggest consumers of HVAC product talking every day about energy, and you see total neglect at site, and none of the companies are taking a stride to bring these things into the market and carry out actual energy saving in reality. This is what the toolbox looked like from 1945 to 2026. Nothing has changed. The pressure gauges, if you have a tongue tester, you're lucky. And if you have, other manifold, I think that is, you're on the top 5% of the industry. Leave alone vacuumizing. I'm to say, we install thousands of units and probably one gets vacuumized today. Maybe things have improved in 2026. This is where your tool set needs to go, totally digitized. And these are not future tools. They are all available in the international market today and somewhat in the local market also. Loggers, various items that get connected over the net and sends the information directly to the manufacturers or the consultant's office. It's just that the consultants have no time to look at these particular things. A particular technician goes to site to start it, and he possibly sends his helper up to commission it while he goes and fetches something else. That's the state of the industry today. And we need to get out of that. We hear so many good things about AI and, incorporating hundreds of things into manufacturing process, go inside these particular factories and carry out an audit. And I think we should be seeing and reporting actually what we see in terms of AI integration and implementation. And if we don't do it, we will get left behind, far behind what the world is going to. And as it is, I can possibly not name more than two or three developments which are of Indian origin and we see coming to our shops over here in terms of HVAC. You see these filters, you see these microprocessors, you see any of these particular things. Which are the things you would say have jumped from Indian R&D or Indian research and development into our products? I think it's time now that we increase the amount of stuff which shifts from our R&D into our product, which gets sold in our market, which are AI equipped or IoT equipped. India has the finest of brains, but the brains today are still going to other people's lands like South Korea, USA, many other countries, discovering the same thing and sending it back to the Indian markets. I think this trend has to be reversed at some stage. So what does artificial intelligence, how is it reshaping our operation? Energy efficiency improvements require more than automation. And a lot of these things are possible using AI. And any research that goes into AI should basically be geared towards reaching the benefit to the common man. It is not good that we just create a hype and do all the AI and keep it in our factory or keep it in our research and development center. Unless it reaches and benefits the common man, it is of no use whatsoever. AI system depends on quality data and strong infrastructure. The quality data can only come if we use quality instruments. And I think we are reasonably good on infrastructure today. You cannot really complain that you don't have 5G or half the time the net doesn't work. There are a whole lot of technologies like Zigbee, Z-Wave, Bluetooth, and other things which are coming. And I regret to state that apart from BACnet, I still today do not see anything else in the consultants' BMS specifications. They are archaic as if they were written in 1980s or 1985. I think that trend needs to change and we need to follow what the world is discovering today in terms of communication. That's the architecture, that's about technology, and I think that's the end of my presentation.